Cool. Thanks. All right, guys, let's get rolling. I'm sure we'll have some other stragglers kind of make their way onto this call over the next 5 minutes or so. But today we're going to go deep into practicing scripts and developing skills. Not something we've ever really talked about a lot in the past. We have kind of on a side note, but boy, now more than ever, there is such importance. Whether you're a brand new agent or a seasoned veteran, it's always a good time to improve skills. Always a good time to improve skills. So the first point in developing skills and practicing scripts are the two most important rules of really kind of practicing scripts and developing skills are asking great questions and listening carefully to the answers. What is a great script in sales? It usually is asking great questions. It's not blabbing about how great you are, how awesome your company is, how much you sell, how wealthy you are, how handsome you are. It's about asking great questions and listening carefully to the answers of those questions so you know how you can serve the people. Getting our ego out of the way. So the first question is, how good are you at both of those things? Asking great questions and listening carefully to the answers. And could you improve? Point number two, practice revolves around two issues: the amount of time you spend daily and the intensity of the time that you spend. So Mark is on a daily script practice in the morning from 8 to 9, right? So we already know the amount of time that you're spending to practice your scripts. It's an hour a day, right, Mark?
Yes.
And the second part of that is the intensity of the time that you spend. It's a pretty intense hour, is it not?
Well, it's up to you. So people participate in a full range. They kind of dial it in, so to speak. And then there's others who actually are full in participation and taking advantage of the time.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you get out of it what you put into it, right? If you're there on the Zoom call, halfway paying attention, chances are you're not going to walk out of that hour saying, I really just learned something, and I can adopt that and put it into my business. But if you're there halfway, you're only going to get, 50% or less of the wonderful benefit that you could get from it.
Yeah, that nails it. You get out what you put in. There's no other formula for that.
Like pretty much anything in life, right? Next point, create a practice plan for yourself. For example, this week, you're going to focus on the for sale by owner script. And next week, you're going to focus on the expired script. And the week after, you're going to focus on the listing presentation. And the week after that, you're going to focus on, intake for a new buyer or a new seller or something like that. But create a plan. And then every week, just focus on that script. So where would you like to improve your skills? What aspect of the business? And then what scripts do you need to learn? Practice those scripts first. Pretty straightforward. Your practice time should actually be on your schedule, just like prospecting, just like lead follow-up, just like going on appointments, right? So we'll use Mark again as an example. Your practice time is on your schedule. It happens every day from 8 to 9. So you're there every day from 8 to 9, like clockwork. Poor practice, no matter how much of it you do, does not improve performance, right? Does that make sense? Dave's daughter is like a rock star softball player. I'm assuming she doesn't practice poorly. When she practices, they practice with intention. They practice with intensity. The coach is probably all over them, Dave, right? About what they're doing, how they're doing it, their form, right? They've got to practice perfectly.
Yeah, it's pretty serious. I mean, like they ran 5-hour practices on Saturday and Sunday this past weekend, and they're moving the whole time for sure.
Yeah, and it's summertime, by the way, guys. But these kids, they're on a trajectory for success for sure. There's a saying, practice makes perfect. Well, the amended saying is, let me just tell this guy, I'll call him later. So there's a saying, practice makes perfect. The amended, upgraded saying is perfect practice makes perfect. In other words, you don't want to practice the wrong things to improve your skills. That won't work ever. You have to practice with intensity, with intention, and it's got to be perfect practice. Next point. So with regard to practicing, find 4 to 5 role play partners and change them if they become negative or drain your energy. Practicing, you can practice just by yourself. I did it for years, and then I got a lot of role play partners also, but you can just have your scripts, hold them up, and practice and practice and practice. But there's something really valuable when you practice with other people that show up with intensity, when you practice with role play partners. But what you'll find sometimes is that when you're doing this practice of your scripts and you have role play partners, sometimes they don't always show up with your level of intensity. And if that's the case, you got to switch them out. You can't show up to practice scripts with somebody that's negative, somebody that drains your energy, somebody that doesn't show up on time. Maybe they don't show up at all, or they show up half the time. It's really important that if you're going to show up and role play with somebody, that they have the decency and the respect to show up with that same level of intention and intensity that you have, so that you can both improve together. So there's some rules with regard to role play. Okay, 4 or 5 rules. Rule number 1, show up on time for your role play appointment. So if you're going to do role play, if you're going to do practice with another agent, you got to follow these rules. And rule number 1, you got to show up on time. You can't show up 5 minutes late. You can't show up 1 minute late. You got to be there on time. Okay, that's rule number 1. Rule number 2, eliminate small talk. Eliminate complaining, eliminate whining. God, the market's so hard. I'm having so much trouble this week. Oh, I just lost the listing. Blah, blah. Nope, that's not what you're there for. That's not what role play is about. So not only do you show up on time, number 2, you eliminate small talk, you eliminate the complaining, you eliminate whining. You're there for a purpose, to improve your business, to improve your skills, to improve each other. Rule number 3, stay on the scripts. If you are following a good script, if you have a good script that you're starting with, let's say you want to learn how to, call expired listings and you're using the Mike Ferry expired script. Practice it perfectly. Stay on the script. And if somebody, if I'm role playing with Mark and he goes off the script, say, oh, Mark, you went off the script. Try it again. Okay. And it's that practice and that repetition that as you continue to nail that down, then when you're on the phone for real, just naturally, without even trying, incredible things come out of your mouth. It's pretty awesome. Okay. Rule number 4, make the role play as real as possible in terms of the responses. Don't just make stuff up. If you prospect on a regular basis, you know what people say to you. You know how they respond to you. So make your responses, make your role play as real as possible. The more realistic you make it, the more successful you're going to be with it, the more you'll learn from it. Next rule, give honest feedback to each other. You're there to help each other grow. If we're going to be role playing with each other, I want honest feedback. I want you to tell me, hey, your enthusiasm went down by the end of the call. I was just like, it was hard for me to listen to you. Ramp up your enthusiasm. It's showtime, or there was too many audible pauses. You said like 20 times. You got to cut that out. Or you talked way too fast. I couldn't understand you. I felt like you were trying to sell me something. Like you weren't mirroring my rate of speech at all. Like feedback, feedback, feedback. That's such a valuable, important part of role play. And then the last point, the rule for role playing, always eliminate the ego. There's no place for ego when we're role playing, when we're practicing, we're trying to get better. Right? It's all about constant, never-ending improvement. We don't need ego there. There's a time and a place for a healthy ego, not during role play. That's when we're there to practice, rehearse, and learn. Next point on practicing scripts and developing your skills. You want to really ramp up your skills, like incredibly, try this. Once a week, record your own prospecting time and listen to it carefully. Actually record it. If you are on the phones, put it on speakerphone, record it unless you have some kind of recording device. If you're at the doors and you're door knocking, have your phone in your pocket, hit record, and just record that prospecting time and listen to it carefully. Be very critical of yourself, right? That's how we learn. And then send a coach to somebody else to critique it. Like Mark, we've done that. Sean, we've done that. Record your prospecting. It's like an incredible real-time way to improve. And I'd be happy to review it and talk to you about it and coach you through it and help. It's just great. That's actually a really effective way, maybe the most effective way to improve your skill set, is to see what you're actually saying and coach up regarding that. Next point. Practice with intensity, because that will set you up to beat the competition and get contracts signed. We can't practice poorly. Practice with intensity. If you ever hear, I'm not a huge sports guy, but anything you hear about how Kobe used to practice, I mean, it was like insanity. He would practice, or Michael Jordan, these guys would practice like at a level 10 going into a game, and then they just performed with such ease because their level of practice was so extraordinarily high. So at this point, practice with intensity. Practice with intensity. Next point on practicing scripts and developing skills. So remember, our growth is determined by our willingness to practice, and our confidence comes from that practice. So our growth is really determined by, are we willing to practice or not? And based on that practice, that's how our confidence builds. And guess what? Do customers want confident people to guide them? 100% of the time. You're buying or selling $1 million or $2 million or $5 million property, or 300,000, doesn't matter. Because guess what? To each one of those buyers and sellers, it's a big deal. Are they looking for somebody with confidence to guide them? 100%. There's a saying that says, everyone secretly wants to be led. And it's really true. When people are approaching us to help them buy or sell real estate, there's comfort in knowing that they're being led by somebody that is exuding exceptional confidence. My gosh, I'm selling $1 million property. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, I'm going to trust that guy. I'm going to trust her. She can take care of me. Look how confident she is. That's what they're thinking. So remember, our growth is determined by our willingness to practice, and our confidence comes from that practice. You practice, you get confident. You know exactly what to say in every selling situation. Your confidence goes up. It goes through the roof, in fact. And customers and prospects respond to that confidence. Look at the opposite if you don't believe that statement. If you show up unconfident, without conviction, without certainty, how does that make the prospect feel? I think I need to find another agent, right? That's what they're thinking. Next point. This is kind of interesting. Record a perfect tape. That would include all aspects of scripts and listen to it daily. So record the tape. Let's say you really want to get good at your just listed, just sold calls, right? Or your expired listing script or whatever it is. Or your listing presentation. You want to get really good at your listing presentation. You record a perfect tape. Turn on a recorder. There's voice recorders on all of our iPhones. Turn on a voice recorder and record yourself going through that script. Let's say it's a listing presentation, and you're just going through the listing presentation. And then listen to it. So not only can you go ahead and rehearse and practice it, but you can listen to it in your own voice to really, really get good. Again, the more we do things like this, the more it just comes out naturally when we're in front of a prospect. When you're sitting at a listing presentation and you know what to say in every aspect of that presentation, it brings, as we just said in the previous point, a level of confidence to you and a confidence for the client that they have in you. You want to increase your level of confidence? Know what to say. You want to know what to say? Record the perfect tape. Record the perfect tape that would include all aspects of the scripts and listen to it daily. Just a couple more points for today, a little shorter call today. Next point on practicing scripts and developing skills. Remember, there's always room for improvement. Always room for improvement, no matter how good we are or how big our numbers are, there's always room for improvement. Doing this 20 years, great. There's room for improvement. You sold 1,000 homes, perfect. Congratulations. There's always room for improvement. You make $1 million or $2 million a year, great. There's always room for improvement. There's always room for improvement, no matter how good we are or how big our numbers are. Goes back to that previous point. There's no room for ego. As soon as we start thinking we got this thing all figured out, that's when we're not, when we're no longer adjusting, because the market is always changing. People are always changing, so we have to be able to constantly adjust to what is relevant out there. That's the point. Don't allow your ego to take over, and don't allow your ego to control your ability to practice. Professionals practice every day. What does your ego tell you when you have an out of control ego? I don't need to practice. I made 100 grand last month. Please. Does that sound like somebody needs to practice to you? It's like, don't let your ego get out of control. Again, look at sports. I think actually Mike Ferry had mentioned this because he plays a lot of like golf tournaments where they do these pro-ams where it's like you get an amateur gets matched with a professional. So he's played golf with a lot of professional golfers, like the best of the best in the world. And I recall Mike saying that one of those pros said to him, you know what the difference between a professional and an amateur is? And Mike's like, no, what is it? He goes, it's our ability to practice. When we finish a round and we miss a hole, you guys go get lunch, but we go to that hole and that shot we missed and we practice it 100 or 200 or 500 times until we got it right. So don't allow your ego to get control over your ability to practice. Professionals, they practice every day. And we're professionals, right? But why wouldn't we practice? Right? I'm not a big sports fan, but football teams, what do they have? One game a week, right? You think? They practice all damn week for that one game. For a handful of hours per game, they're practicing, I don't know, 40 hours a week, whatever it is. They're in the weight room, they're training, it's all practice, it's all preparation. And the last point, to kind of tie up in a nice neat bow, this whole point about practicing scripts and developing skills, we always perform at the level of our practice. We always perform at the level of our practice. It's kind of like, you feel like, oh, it's all about motivation and pushing and kind of climbing higher. But really what happens on a regular basis is we fall to our level of, that floor that has been uplifted by our level of practice. You keep raising our practice, raising our skills, raising our skill sets and our abilities. That's kind of the floor of where we fall to. So we always perform to the level of our practice. So what level is that for you? You want to set your performance higher? practice at a higher level. Learn what to say, learn what to do, learn to be prepared for absolutely any selling situation. We always perform at the level of our practice. So, short call today on practicing scripts and developing skills, but very, very important. It's one of these things that it's like definitely not the sexiest part of what we do. Much better to receive a big fat commission check and practice scripts and develop our skills. But truly, the best of the best in the industry, that's what they're doing. They're spending time practicing. So anybody, you can, if you want, unmute your mic. Anybody have any questions or comments on practicing scripts and developing skills, and or anything related to any other aspects of the business you want to chat about? Okay, great. Good stuff, guys. Well, if there's anything that comes up between now and next week, let me know. Otherwise, have an awesome week. Go crush it. And we'll see you here next week. Take good care, guys. Be well.